Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today's going to be a quick video about weapon tuning and its complicated system that is just a gimmick for changing something for the sake of changing something. I believe it has no place in an arcade shooter, and I believe it has no place in a Call of Duty game. Hopefully this is the last time we see this iteration of weapon tuning and we just go back to traditional style attachments like we've all come to love in every single arcade shooter. So I think, though, besides complaining about it for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think that I'm just going to kind of give some points out there of ways that we could improve weapon tuning attachments and guns overall in modern FPS games. After about 20 years of Call of Duties, a little bit longer than 20 years of Call of Duties, and FPSs in general, competitive FPSs, massive multiplayer games as well, I think that there is a caliber of things that could be changed. I think that if we used a simple 1 to 10 point system in Modern Warfare and Call of Duty games in general, I think that it would be a much more simple, streamlined thing than a bar that shows red or green. And in the multiplayer in this, if you look at certain attachments, it doesn't show the plus or minus for them. It just shows you red or green. It doesn't tell you whether or not that weapon attachment gives you faster fire rate or better accuracy. It just gives you a green or red bar and makes you determine whether or not that is, going to add to those weapon attributes and whether or not you think that it's going to help you in the game, depending on how you play the game, of course. I think that if you had caliber-based weapon damage, 7.62, 5.56, 308, 338, 9mm, 45, etc. If you had damage based off of weapon caliber instead of just making up an attribute and a damage factor for a specific weapon, I think that there's, if you wanted to make an advancement and change things for a positive, you could put weapons into different categories based on the caliber and, let it go from there. I think that if you had barrel length velocity instead of, just making up some random attribute for attachment that doesn't make sense and is just confusing, normally longer barrel means higher velocity for rounds, just like shorter barrels decrease velocity. Is it to the aspect of what you would think it would be, in the game versus real life? No, but it's a video game. So that can be up to the creative director and whoever's designing the weapons and their perks, their accuracy, weapon damage, weapon handling, all of those things. I think with red dots especially the tiny red dots, the same ones that you could put on your pistol in game, I think that if you made those improve ADS time, which in real life, like this game is trying to emulate to a certain degree, red dots help you ADS. In real life, like it would make sense in video games, especially since it's not like you're adding an ACOG or some, full power optic on your weapon. What should, affect those weapons is the weapon's overall weight should affect your ADS time and your sprint time. And I think once you start putting too many negatives, it makes sense. Why would I want to put any of these attachments on my weapons when I can just camp? And another thing would be is stocks provide stability. There's some stocks in here, it makes no sense why one is more stable than the other, which leads me to think, what's the point of having all these different stock options if the attributes don't make any sense? If one gun, if one stock is essentially the same as another, why is that stock making my weapon sway worse? That makes absolutely no sense. And then when you go to tune that, none of that makes any sense too, since the negative 0.3 or whatever system that it's trying to use is an overly complicated system that seems like it just exists out of the laziness of the creator for that system. It makes no sense for the user or gamers in general unless, you're really taking your time like some other YouTubers to figure out what's the point of the system. But from a casual gamer's aspect, it's pointless, unfortunately. So I think that if they focused a little bit more on those little features and they really dumbed down the weapon attributes, then you'd have a much more streamlined, enjoyable gameplay. For most casual gamers. I'm sure if you are a pro gamer or competitive in any aspect, then you could care less and you'll use whatever is the best weapon with the best attachment no matter what. It won't matter if you like the gun or not. And I think also, speaking about weapon stability, I think foregrips on weapons make no sense either, because they all affect, what, ADS time? They all affect speed or something in that regard, when that's not the case at all. The foregrip should only provide better weapon handling, better weapon stability based on the weapon platform and based upon the other attachments on your weapon. If you have, of course, the operator foregrip with a 12 times optic on your gun, there's no point. So that's where I could understand where there would be a negative aspect to your weapon and however you tune it. If the tuning system, instead of just using whatever negative point thing or whatever, because I don't even pay attention to that. Every time I add a weapon attachment and I go to tune it, I'm looking for ADS time. I put ADS time and damage range all the way. That's all I do every single time, because that's all I care about, is being able to aim fast and having that range if I have to. Because I always find myself, people jumping around corners, or if there's someone, far out. I never have that mid-range, engagement head on with people. And when I do, I want to make sure that I can all around be, well off in that firefight. So I think that for the weapon tuning, I think if it was half a point or a full point against the 1 to 10 point system I spoke about in the beginning of the video, I think that would create a much more streamlined, easier to tune game. Let me know what you guys think, because as I'm playing this game more and more, I'm kind of coming up with more ideas of how they could improve it for either this Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty, however they're going to do Call of Duties from now on. I think that if they created that system, it would benefit gamers, it would benefit the competitive community, it would benefit the casual community, and everyone can kind of coexist in this symbiotic, gaming relationship in a sense, instead of having such toxicity and people complaining all the time. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.